In some countries, if a prisoner is on death row, then they get to decide what their last meal is going to be before they get executed. Quite a bittersweet choice, isn't it? I don't even know what I'd get for my last meal. Like, maybe I get my favorite Pakistani dish like keema or koftas, or I could go super bougie with like a Wagyu steak. Sorry, I'm just hungry and my mind is clearly drifting. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and welcome back to another video. Now, just because you have a last meal request doesn't mean it'll get approved. If the meal was considered contraband, if it had alcohol, if it included ingredients you could use to injure yourself, like oysters for example, you'd be denied. Let's find out more. These are the top 10 scary last meal requests you won't believe. Starting us off at number 10 is Garry Simmons Jr. That was a mouthful, but also so was this dude's last meal, or should I say banquet. So what did Garry do to get him on death row? Now, pre-prison, Garry worked as a grocery store butcher, and back in 1996 he's found guilty of killing and dismembering his drug dealer Jeffrey Wolf with knives from the store. To get rid of the body, he scattered all the body parts in this alligator-filled bayou. Apparently, Wolf was owed a drug debt of $12,000 to $20,000 from Simmons, so he drove to Mississippi with his girlfriend to get it. When he got to Simmons' house, him and his accomplice did not have the money or the drugs, but they did have a rifle with which they shot him with. They then gagged the girlfriend and locked her in a footlocker, and when they finally removed her, they told her her life depended on how well she performed sexually before raping her. He was scheduled to be given the lethal injection in June of 2012, and so his last meal was, and the list is long, so here goes: 1 Pizza Hut medium super supreme deep dish pizza, double portion with mushrooms, onions, jalapeno peppers, and pepperoni. Pizza regular portion with 3 cheeses, olives, bell pepper, tomato, garlic, and Italian sausage. 10 8-ounce packs of Parmesan cheese, 10 8-ounce packs of ranch dressing, 1 family-sized bag of Doritos nacho cheese flavor, 8 ounces of jalapeno nacho cheese, 4 ounces sliced jalapenos, 2 large strawberry shakes, 2 20-ounce cherry cokes, and 1 supersized order of McDonald's fries with extra ketchup and mayo. And I'm not even done, 2 pints of strawberry ice cream. That's nearly 29,000 calories for a last meal. We're done here. Coming in at number 9 is Odell Barnes. It was November 1989, the location was Wichita Falls, Texas. Odell broke into 42-year-old Helen Bass's home while she was at work. When she got home, he beat her, stabbed her, and then shot her in the head, and it's unclear whether or not she was also raped. There was honestly just way too much forensic evidence left at the crime scene: fingerprints, his semen, blood on his clothing that DNA tests confirmed was Helen's. The man basically had "I murdered Helen" tattooed to his forehead. But he did appeal, saying the two knew each other and had had an existing sexual relationship. The bloodstains on his clothes, despite being hers, made no sense. The violent nature of her murder meant there should have been a lot more blood on him, but there were only a few drops. Either way, he was still put on death row and executed on the 1st of March 2000. For his last meal, he requested justice, equality, and world peace. I mean, bit late for that, Odell, but we appreciate the sentiment. At number 8, we have Gerald Lee Mitchell. Back in June of 1985, 17-year-old Gerald met 2 guys, Charles and Kenneth, at a Houston park under the pretense of selling them weed. But when he got there, he somehow convinced the duo to drive him to a vacant house, where he ended up robbing and shooting them. Charles died, but Kenneth faked dying despite being shot in the chest, arm, and hip. Gerald left and shot another man that same day over a necklace. He was arrested, and his lawyer asked the Supreme Court to block his execution since he was only 17, but the appeal was unsuccessful. When his time came in October of 2001, his last meal request was a pack of assorted Jolly Ranchers. Really? Like, that's just disappointing. And can you imagine the guards opening the pack and taking out all the ranchers but leaving 1 flavor and him opening it like, could this day honestly get any worse? Is that not hilarious? I would do that. Filling our number 7 slot is James Edward Smith. Now, this case I was genuinely surprised by. Smith lived his life as a priest before attempting a robbery inside the International Trade Center and then shooting a man, resulting in his death. He was then arrested and put on death row in Texas, and when his time came in 1990, instead of requesting an actual last meal, he requested a lump of dirt. That was obviously denied by the prison, and he was given a yogurt cup instead before being executed by lethal injection. Apparently, Smith wanted voodoo dirt for for a ritual wherein he'd use the dirt to mark his body so that his spirit can move on and not turn into a ghost. Which confuses me because he was a priest. Wouldn't it have been sacrilegious for him to practice voodoo or believe in it? Lol. I just took in saying voodoo dirt was sacrilegious when he shot a man. Point failed. Moving on. Now at number 6 is Ray Rector. Why does he sound like a stripper? Anyway, back in March of 1981, Rector and his friends went to this dance hall in Conway only to have one of his friends not be able to pay the $3 cover. Come on man, $3, somebody just spot him. It's not that deep. Either way, that pissed Rector off, so he pulled out a pistol and started firing, wounding 2 people and killing the 3rd. Days passed and he decided to turn himself in only to doubt his decision last minute and kill his childhood friend and police officer Robert Martin, the man that he wanted to negotiate his surrender. After that plot twist turn of events, Rector attempted suicide by shooting himself in the head, only to survive and kind of lobotomize himself. He was put on death row and his last meal request was fried chicken, a steak, cherry Kool-Aid and a pecan pie. Now that's not even the unbelievable part. When he was done eating, the officers asked him why he hadn't touched the pie, and he replied saying he was saving it for later, which demonstrates his mental insufficiency post-suicide attempt. I mean, saving it for later essentially meant post his death, but he didn't know that. The pie was disposed of after Rector was executed via lethal injection. Coming in at number 5 is Thomas J. Grasso. Yeah, I'm Italian. Now, I don't get the motive behind Thomas's crimes at all, but I guess every devil has its poison. I know I made up that saying, but it kind of sounds right, you know? Back in December of 1990, he broke into 87-year-old Hilda Johnson's home, strangling her with her own Christmas lights. Is nothing sacred anymore? He said he ended up stealing $12 from her as well as her TV set, so he didn't really get away with much. After getting away with Hilda's murder, Thomas moved to New York with his wife, and in July of 1991, he murdered 81-year-old Leslie Holt so he could steal his social security check. Detectives on Leslie's case arrested Thomas and he confessed 2 weeks later to both murders. The last meal he requested was as follows: 2 dozen steamed mussels, 2 dozen steamed clams, a double cheeseburger from Burger King, a half dozen barbecued spare ribs, 2 strawberry milkshakes, 1/2 of a pumpkin pie with whipped cream, diced strawberries, and he requested a can of room temperature SpaghettiOs with meatballs. Room temperature SpaghettiOs? That's disgusting, dude. An hour before he was executed, he released his 4th and final statement, which was, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs, I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." Dude, you're gonna waste your last statement on that being petty? This guy's a character, honestly. I don't understand because he's a murderer, but that is a bit funny. I'm not gonna lie. At number 4 is Larry Bill Elliott. This one was a crime of pure passion. Back at the start of 2001, Larry's life was about to go up. Just prefaces, he was married and had 4 kids of his own, but had met Rebecca Gregg after she posted an ad online looking for a sugar daddy. I just love when stories start off that way. Rebecca really needed to turn her life around, and she thought she could do this by starting her own stripper costume business. Over the next 18 months, he spent $500,000 on her and was majorly in love with her. However, she had her own troubles and was caught up in a bad custody battle with her former partner Robert Finch. So Larry took it upon himself to get rid of the problem. He broke into Robert's house and shot him to death along with his girlfriend Dana Thrall. He was arrested for the murders and put on death row and was electrocuted in November of 2009. He did have a special request for his last meal, but he also asked for his choice to not be revealed to the public. So we will never know what his last meal was, but honestly, who really cares? I know, all that build up for nothing. You just got played, suckers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Filling at number 3 slot is Peter J. Minial. Back in May of 1986, Peter and his friend James went to Paul Manier's house to drink and do drugs. When they got to Paul's, Peter suggested robbing Paul and James agreed. While they were in Paul's room about to do coke, Peter hit Paul on the back of the head with a mug. He then continued hitting him, and Russell then grabbed a nearby shock absorber, because everyone just casually has those lying around, and started hitting Paul on the head. Peter was like, no, you're not hitting him hard enough, and then started hitting him himself. He then told Russell to stab him with a knife, to which he hesitated. Peter grabbed it himself and then stabbed Paul 39 times before stuffing the blanket down his throat. All that just to rob someone. Oh my god, the horror. Peter was arrested a month later and confessed to the police, and Russell actually ended up testifying against him for a lesser sentence. His last meal request was one of the largest in inmate history. At 42 years old, he asked for 20 beef tacos, 20 beef enchiladas, 2 double cheeseburgers, a jalapeno pizza, fried chicken, spaghetti, fruitcake, half a chocolate cake and half a vanilla cake, cookies and cream and caramel pecan fudge ice cream, 2 Cokes, 2 Pepsis, 2 root beers, and 2 glasses of orange juice. None of which I think he deserved, but okay. Now at number 2 is Victor Fagor. Back in July of 1960, Victor arrived in Iowa and rented out a room at this old boarding house. There he called Dr. Edward Bartels and told him a woman needed urgent medical attention and to come at once. When Edward got there, Victor kidnapped him, took him to Illinois, and shot him in the head. Now I wish I could give you like a motive or a connection between both men, but it's believed that he just chose him randomly from the local yellow pages. Unlucky Edward, unlucky. Now Victor was soon caught after trying to sell the doctor's car and was convicted for his crimes and sentenced to death. When his time finally came in March of 1963, he requested a single olive with the pit still inside for his last meal. He hoped an olive tree would sprout from his grave to symbolize peace. After he was hanged, the pit was found in his pocket and he was buried with it. Fun fact, he was actually the last person put to death in the state of Iowa. Not that anyone cares, because he was a murderer. And finally, at number 1 is Lawrence Russell Brewer, also known as a disgusting white supremacist. Back in June of 1998, a 49-year-old James Byrd Jr., an African-American man, accepted a ride from 3 people, including Brewer. Instead of taking him home, the men drove him out of town, beat him to a pulp, spray-painted his face, and defecated and urinated all over him. They then chained his ankles to their truck and dragged him for 3 miles, most of which he was alive for. He died halfway during the 3 miles when his right arm and head was severed because his body hit a culvert. Brewer and the 2 others were well-known white supremacists, and one of the men had a bunch of racist tattoos and even some Nazi symbols. They were all convicted for James's murder, and 2 were given the death penalty. The day before his execution, Brewer felt no regret for his crime and even said he'd do it all over again. His last meal request was this: 2 chicken fried steaks with gravy and sliced onions, a triple patty bacon cheeseburger, a cheese omelette with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos, a bowl of fried okra with ketchup, 1 pound of barbecued meat with half a loaf of white bread, 3 fully loaded fajitas, a meat lover's pizza, 1 pint of Bluebell vanilla ice cream, a slab of peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts, and 3 root beers. When it was presented to him, he said he wasn't hungry and ate none of it, which was a huge slap in the face. That pissed off everyone so much that State Senator John Whitmore asked Texas prison officials to end the tradition altogether, and they did. This guy is literally the reason prisoners on death row in Texas no longer get a last meal request. Honestly, I find his crime absolutely sickening. It disgusted me to my core. These people can honestly go to hell. If you think any race is lesser than any other, you can straight up go to hell as well. That was 1998. It's 2020 and this is still happening. This needs to be stopped. And that is it for today's video, guys. I haven't had my lunch break today yet, so naming all these in list form got me really hungry, and now I also want like 20 beef enchiladas. I haven't even ever tried an enchilada and I want one. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. As always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Let me know what you guys thought in the I fell. Sorry, if you guys don't know, I sat on mats because I'm small and I fell. Is this on?
You're on.
Oh, okay. 1 Pizza Hut medium super supreme deep okay. Sorry. Okay, now and stop smiling. That's what you get for requesting the room temperature SpaghettiOs. You're nasty. Get out of my face. I don't know what that was, but I'm feeling myself.